there it is, the latest discussions on strategic management. The stuff I was reading before is 10 or 15 years old, and you'd have to, it makes no difference. The point is that everything comes to you at a certain time. So if forecasting was our strong suit and information and analysis was our strong suit, right? That we analyzed back in the 80s, we'd go to all the programs, we'd hear all the Islamic. That's why we could analyze, we went to all those programs and we listened to what was happening in Africa. What does that mean? What's happening in the Arab world? What does that mean? What's happening with Iran? And we had to analyze. Now, I just use credibility. I know if I get this from Iran, I know how the people think and write and talk, and I can analyze how accurate it is. If I look or hear something as a nice lady come on, the Indian lady, boy, but if it's India, it's fine. But if it's Pakistan and China, I said, boy, that's the line this lady has. Good God. And mean, too. Like mean, like, yeah, you so-and-so, over there. And, but I know what weight to give it. You see what I mean? Because I know who's, where you just get used to, just like we got used to who wrote the articles, if it was from a Zionist, if it was something, it was Wall Street Journal. Now you can get Wall Street Journal, you can get every newspaper, you can get all of that right on the cell phone, telephone. And all you have to do is analyze. Now they just said this, okay. I think that's about 75% accurate, what Kishore Mubobani said. I think he's accurate. And then I watched the old Prime Minister of Australia, which speaks perfect, excellent Chinese. I'll tell you his name in a minute. He gave good talks on China last year. But in this year, he's anti-China because his people's anti-China. So I know how many things to give him, because he changed, he flips up. Okay, so everybody, I know this is a nice, not nice, but this is a mean old Indian lady. But I like the way the voice sounds because it sounds like the Pakistani people, they speak, when they learn how to speak English, they speak, so they all sound the same. But if it's on China or things that India is not rolling on, I already know what they're going to say. It ain't going to be right. I also know what our friends are going to say, right? And I know how accurate they are. And I have a good understanding of the news cycle. And I know if I sit right here and all of a sudden the Negro lady is not on press TV anymore, she disappears, then she comes back, as they say in Spanish, de vez en cuando, every now and then. And I knew her from before, and she didn't call me on the phone. So it's easy to put together. Your friend is out and you're out. And now you're trying to wiggle your alternative thing that you had all along to wiggle yourself back in. When everybody knows who's everybody's team, I want to say something about this too. That's why we should never get shaky or nervous or unsure of ourselves about what we're doing. I mean, it's good to analyze what you do so you don't make mistakes and you don't. But the line we on, it's the right line. And the only reason I say it is because we've been on it so long. And this thing about tazkiyah of goals is something we've always used. We're just talking about it today. We've always used that. Purification of goals. We want to go to a good place, the right place, but we want to get there clean, healthy, and wholesome, and we ain't not selling nothing. We're not selling our pride, our forecast, or nothing to get to where we go. And if you watch, Allah will rescue us from anything, the little feeble, the Quran uses the term feeble, it's a spider's web, it's just feeble. Now, spider's web catch flies all day long, right? Because they're lightweight. But it don't catch bears, foxes, and gorillas and stuff. That's what we are. All we do is just wipe it off. As we run through the hills, we just wipe the spider's web off. It's a big web of intrigue. It's something for them. You're going to catch them, but you're not going to catch us. I'm not bragging, but they ain't caught us on hardly nothing. Can you imagine? These are from 1989. It was like that before, but these, racism, Zionism, apartheid, triangle of terror, this is a triangle of terror too. Same period, 1989. This one is around that time. Why, with the Zionists and everybody else and every trap being laid, why it ain't working? It's not working because we got Allah's protection on us. That's not bragging, that's just saying. The doer say that if you do this, you do that, you got, pretty good shot at Allah's protection. And be careful about the doer of the oppressed, because there's no petition between Allah and the doer of the oppressed. We're the oppressed, but we don't feel like it. We're oppressed. Everybody else feel that we're so oppressed that they count us out every day they get up in the morning. They say, well, that's it for them. Their masjid is falling down. The cars are not running. Everything is falling apart. And we still here rolling. And it's not bragging, but hell, we got more than all of them put together. It's unbelievable. That's part of, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think the other Muslims feel that they're part of the oppressed?
That's a good question. The other Muslims.
Well,
Yeah.
specifically the ones we come in contact with, be more specific. The ones we come in contact with, the African American Muslims, do they feel that they're part of that?
Okay, I would have to separate, this is just an off the cuff answer, but I would separate them into different groups. Some who understand what we're talking about, they would classify us as being part of the oppressed. There's others who are pretenders, like there's others Shias used to come here all the time. In fact, I got boxes of Shia literature over there that I went and got especially for them. And they disappeared. They know about oppression, but they do everything they can to avoid it. In other words, they on boss man's team. There's other people who are they hear about all the stuff over here and they know something is shady and they're influenced by their environment. Number one, their children at the university, they have a reasonable job, or even if they just drive a cab, they're just doing fine. They're doing 10 times as good as they would be back home. Okay. So those people, uh, they don't want to hear about oppression. And if you tell the old folks over at PGMA and a few other places out in they like Islam for themselves and they like Islam for their rituals and all of that. They are healthy, semi-sane Muslims. They're going to be at their Eid, they're going to do. But they didn't come here for that. It just so happens that when they got here, they meet in a little house and they said, why don't we buy a masjid? And first, like years ago, they were houses and apartments and stuff like that. And then you start hitting 30, 40 years, about 40 years ago, they started picking up, and by the 1990, they was putting up structures. And at the same time, the African American Muslim was going into a decline or stagnation. That was during the chief's reign. So the chief's community was stagnant. If you went to any one of the Imam Muhammad's programs in 1990, say if you went over to one program over there, then we went to another one at a place in Baltimore. We went to all of those around. We saw the typical crew. The older people my age, and then the younger people that they forced to come, that they had to come, right? Okay. And then as time went on, the pioneers are passing away and they're leaving. And any people that's left, they practice Islam. But it's a very modest, it's almost like the immigrant Islam, except the immigrants is now telling them what to do, or telling them, where they used to wouldn't listen to them. Oh, no. And remember a year or so ago when we went up to Atlantic City? A crew had just came back from Saudi Arabia. The crew that was doing most of the talking. No, they was a lot of them had a few from Syria, but they had some that was in Saudi Arabia because they was when you could hear them speak, they were saying we was in Saudi Arabia. And I remember one of them was giving advice to the brothers when we were sitting there in the prayer. He was telling them, Al-Ghazali, Imam Ghazali is Mumtaz and all. And I was saying, yeah, I agree with him. Only we've been down with Imam Ghazali for 40 years, at least from the day after we became Muslim. And they're just over there studying. And okay, back to the question. How we view the Muslims here in America, they come in several groups. Uh, the standard Muslims that we see now, but you have to watch and have certain expectations. You can watch it in the news and you can see it in programs. For instance, the African Muslims who come here, the